Byler isn't dead. Confirmed, real, and true. Look, I know I'm delusional. Okay, girly, I got it. I know I am. You don't need to tell me. Disclaimer: one, this is not going to be edited. Two, this is going to be very slow, so put it on 2 times speed. If you can make it higher, great. Good. Do it. I understand that there's a lot to go through, but I'm only going to be talking about Byler. And I'm going to try really, really hard to make it. I'm going to try really, really hard to explain it in a way that is, not dog water, because there's a lot and there's no good starting place. Like, there's absolutely none. So I'm gonna just try trial and error. I think the starting place that I tried for the last take of this was pretty good, so I'm gonna go with that one. This is a disaster. I'm just gonna go through that right now. Okay, let's start. Volume 1 comparison to Volume 2. So in Volume 1, Will was talking to Robin about the snowball avalanche conversation, right? Then you have Will getting Vecna, getting those memories replayed in his head. And then you have, obviously Will thinking about his childhood and then, you know, unlocking his powers, right? Here's the thing. So when Will was having this conversation with Joyce later on, I took it as he. So let me just back up a second. Joyce and Will were having a conversation, then Mike walked in, and then the whole coming out scene happened, right? So when Will was talking about how he saw horrible things, I thought for a second he was talking about the Maxi, but I guess that wasn't the case. Which I don't know why you would show one of them, but not the other one. That's just confusing, but I think I understand why. But what I will point out is that in the Maxi, when Vecna got into Will's head, Vecna showed Will a scene that was not correct, and somebody on Twitter pointed it out. I don't know who they were. But they pointed out that in the van scene, Will's Will's crying, right? Looking out the window crying, and Mike doesn't look over. In season 4, Mike looks over. And it's something that I had on loop in my head, and I knew something was wrong when I watched that scene in season 5, but I didn't pinpoint it. But Mike doesn't look over in season 5. Now, you may be wondering, why is this important? Why is this important? Why is this important? I promise you it is. Because I think that was the show trying to tell us that Vecna is messing with Will's head. Like, just completely rewriting memories to fit, the sort of train of thought that he wants, Will to go down. Right? He needs to make Will upset. So he's trying to make Will upset. Now, I think with Will seeing these visions, memories, or whatever Vecna shows him when he gets Vecna'd again, which I love that for him. Sorry, I love Will so much, but I also love torturing Will. As long as the torture has a good ending, But I'm not so sure. But when Will gets Vecna'd again, he gets shown things again. We don't see that. Again, I think I know why. We'll get there in a second. But my idea for it, of what he was shown, is probably a lot of sort of tainted memories where Vecna has just been ripping out pieces of, like, what Will genuinely thinks is true, right? And making him feel delusional about his feelings towards Mike. Like, I don't know, and this is where it gets confusing, because I feel like if Vecna, like, legitimately was, like, trying to mess with Will, he would have, like, in the big fight, used, like, went after Mike to, I don't know, but, like, I assume Vecna would have gotten into his head again and messed with those memories. But then I'm confused on what his plan is for when they actually fight, which is probably why he's gonna lose. Probably why he's gonna lose. But I think that Will feels almost delusional about his about how Mike feels about him because he was so hopeful at the beginning of the season. That's why he had the conversation with Robin. But now with Vecna messing with its memories, like he did in the Max Z, I think he genuinely doesn't know anymore, and that's why he sort of chalked it up to just being a crush or being Tammy because he doesn't know and he's scared. And I think also with how just like he's trying to say that it doesn't matter to him that much, and I think the other reason why is because I think that Will is planning to sacrifice himself. Somebody pointed this out that there's two different things. One, Will stands in front of the wormhole picture in episode 7. His face is in the center. He is the bridge. And he feels as though somebody else pointed it out on Twitter. I really wish I had their names. I'm sorry. If this is you, I'm sorry. But somebody else pointed out that Will saying that he's not afraid anymore. He is afraid, but he is planning on doing something. So we're very certain that he's going to try to sacrifice himself. Now, I don't think he knows about Elle and Kali. Now, I think I'm pronouncing that name right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. But I think he doesn't know about them and what they're planning on doing. So, I know there's a lot happening. I'm trying to break it down. But he's planning on sacrificing himself because he genuinely thinks that it's the only way to stop what's been happening because he blames himself. Now, he blames himself and he's not stopping the blame because when he's having that conversation with Joyce and Joyce is like, it's not your fault. It's literally not your fault. Like, you're the victim here. Well, Will was like, no, it is. Like, it is my fault. So Will is not accepting anybody to sit there and be like, hey, this isn't, like, you didn't do this. Like, even when he said that he built the tunnels, it's like, okay, but you were possessed. Like, it wasn't you. Like, even, yeah, the soldiers, yeah, whatever. It wasn't you. Like, you didn't just straight up murder them. Elle has straight up murdered people. Like that. Okay, she can't say that wasn't her. She literally did. You were possessed by a shadow figure that we have not seen, and I'm peeved about that. I miss him so much. Sorry, I'm gendering the mind flayer. I love him though. I love him so much. Like, yes, he's really bad. And yes, he did terrible things to Will. But he's so cool though. Like the shadow. Ugh, I love him. Now something else I will mention is that in the Joyce and Will scene when they were talking together, you look at Will's eyes, that man is not absorbing anything. He is so locked in to his feelings that he's not taking any logic, anything. So, again, I'm bouncing around a lot, but I promise it's going to all make sense in a minute. So, I genuinely think that Will is going to try to sacrifice himself and either have a conversation with Elle and Kali, like maybe figure out what they're doing, or maybe they figure out what he's trying to do, and maybe the three of them sort of have a conversation, and then Elle goes and tells Mike, and then they have a conversation, and then Mike comes in. But I think the way it's probably actually going to happen is that they're not going to figure out what each other's plans are, and Mike is just going to have to like recognize that Will is acting a little strange. And I like this version a little bit better because as much as I would like Will to have a conversation with the other two girlies, I don't think it would make a lot of sense for how I think the episode is going to go. Now, I think episode 8 is going to be Mike's episode. Now, you may say, whoa, hold on. But I don't think that they did complete character assassination for like 3 episodes for no payoff. So I genuinely and truly believe that the next episode has to be Mike's episode because he is the heart of the party. Like this, it sort of started with him. And I know you're saying, whoa, that's also not true. The show kind of started with him. I'm pretty sure it was his voiceover that started the show. So I think the next episode has to be Mike's episode. Like, we're gonna have I think 80% of it's gonna be his episode. I think, only a little bit is not. Especially at the beginning. I think this is gonna be the moment that we really get a lot from Mike. I don't know what that means, but we're gonna get a lot. Now, I think Mike is going to have to figure out something's wrong with Will, and I think that will be the best way to tackle it, considering how well Mike knows Will. And if it's not him that figures out what Will's planning, then it doesn't hit as hard. So it needs to be Mike that figures out what Will is planning to do. And I think we're going to get down to the wire. They're about to blow it up. And Mike is trying to convince Will to go with them, like to leave. And this is really where we're going to have, I think, the biggest part of that episode, where they finally talk it through. And, they I don't know how much talking they're going to do with how much time, but considering Max and Holly spent 12 years leaving the Upside Down, or the Void, or whatever that was, the Cave of Wonders, of Redness, of Vast, I don't know what that title is, because I don't know if that was the Abyss. I don't know anymore. I'm confused. I literally had to pause when I was watching Volume 2, and I was like, I'm so confused. And then I didn't get help. Anyways, doesn't matter. Point is, they took forever to leave. I think it's gonna happen again with these two. Genuinely, I don't think this show has a concept of like time, because it doesn't exist. But then again, most TV shows don't have a concept of time. So I think they're gonna have their big moment here. There's also the possibility that Mike gets Vecna'd, and Mike, has to sort of come to terms with things in order to get unvecna'd. There's also the possibility that Will gets Vecna'd, and Vecna is controlling his mind, and Mike makes a confession like he did paralleling season 4 with Elle in order to break Will out. But I also think that there's a possibility, if that's the case, of there being a kiss immediately, because I don't think Will is going to genuinely believe anything that Mike is saying, because he's got Vecna in his brain whispering things of doubt, because Vecna literally has done that before in the Maxi. And then I think that would end with Mike kissing Will and sort of breaking that spell, because you can fake words, but you can't fake actions. So I think that would be sort of the best way. And then obviously Will breaking out of trance, probably kissing him back, just so we know that it was consensual, because otherwise it's a little weird. But the main thing is, Mike actually knows about Will's feelings for him, because the Duffers confirmed that in an article. I think that's the funniest thing about Volume 2 is that the Duffers just have to keep explaining what happened because everybody's so confused. Now, here's the thing. I genuinely think that they maybe filmed, wrote it, directed it, all of those things, and then decided to change the meaning afterwards. Or maybe they just didn't like verbalize what they were trying to get properly. I don't know, because that GNC scene was also so confusing. I know a lot of people are like, but I wasn't confused by it. Okay, good for you. You're in the minority. The majority was confused by it. I was confused because I was like, there's 3 different things that this scene can mean right now. Anyways, not important. But the important thing is they had to reveal in an article that Mike is finally realizing that he's Will's crush. Now, here's the thing with the word crush, and this is where I know that a lot of people were upset. I don't necessarily have a problem with the word crush being used in this instant. I understand everybody's upsetness with the coming out scene and the fact that everybody and their mother was literally in the room. I crashed out about that as well. I also want to point out Mr. Clark, Erica, and Hopper were not in that scene. I don't know why people think that they were. They were not. Unless you can show me video evidence of them being in that scene. I literally have watched it and skimmed through it and I have not seen them, but maybe I'm just blind. Because everybody's like, he. And also, Mr. Clark's just a science teacher. He's not a math teacher. Please. If we're going to call out my man, call him out right. And also, I just want to point out, since I said my man, where is Dr. Owens? Is he dead? Please tell me he's not dead. That's my baby. I really hope we get to see him at some point, because if this show concludes and I don't get to see him, I'm going to crash out. I'm going to crash out. I'm sorry. I'm going to crash out. Anyways, not the point. Byler's the point. Okay. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh no. Okay, hold on. I don't remember what I was saying. Give me a second. Okay. I locked in. Crush. So I don't really have a problem with this word being used. Now I know a lot of people did, and I'm gonna explain why I didn't have a problem with it. It wasn't the point. It really wasn't the point. I don't even know when he brought it up, but I think he brought it up because he was afraid of it also being used against him. But I think the reason why he said the Tammy thing and the reason why he's lowered it down to a crush is not just for one of the reason that I think it is. I think it's highly possible that he's trying to suppress his feelings. He's trying to downplay his own feelings. And the reason why is because he's trying to tell himself that Vecna can't use it against him. Vecna is very clearly able to use it against him. But I think he's really trying to convince himself that he's not in love with Mike and that it was just a silly little crush and that he'll get over it. That way, it's not used against him. Because I think that's what he's afraid of. But he's not ready to admit that. He was ready to admit that he. This also kind of frustrated me, but it is kind of more along the lines of Will. And I don't know if he meant it. Like, I think, okay. When he said, I don't like girls, instead of saying, I'm gay, I think that was one, a season 3 callback, and two, I think that really does fit more along the lines of his character because I think his character in that moment was having like a panic attack and I think he was scared. So I don't blame him. I was a little annoyed because I was like, "Oh, okay, we're just going like that, but okay, but like okay." Would I have appreciated it more if he said the gay word? Yes, but I also understand why he didn't. One, callback. Two, he's having a panic attack. I don't think he's really like. I think he's trying to be as careful as possible, and he's still scared that there's people in that room that won't accept him. Even though somebody else pointed it out, there were no stakes for the audience. We were pretty darn sure that everybody in that room was gonna support him. I mean, that would have been crazy if there was somebody in the room who didn't support him. And that's why I know for a fact Hopper was not in that room. I was like, when I saw that Hopper wasn't there, I was like, okay, well, we're good. We're good. Because Hopper literally in season 1 was like, is he gay? Is he? Is he? So I was not comfortable with Hopper being in the room, and that's why I'm so, like, I'm so certain he was not there. I hope Joyce never says that to him. I hope Hopper never finds out. I'm scared what that man will do. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. Dude somehow got a bomb. Like, I don't trust. Anyways, genuinely though, I think Will was scared about revealing his feelings about anybody to everybody. Um and I think he brought it up because he was testing the water to see if there would be a reaction cuz when he says it he's looking directly at Michael. I don't know how you could be any more obvious. So I think he was more or less testing the water to see Mike's reaction and to see if Mike, and I think that's also why maybe there was a direction for Mike to not react because I think they needed Will to genuinely believe that Mike didn't feel for him. And again, build up for episode 8 and it being the major thing that happens. Um yeah, and I don't know how I feel about that because even though like Will was looking at him so like intensely during that moment that I understand why Mike probably wouldn't have shown anything, but like for the audience to be like, wow, Mike is really dense. So it's really hard to frame that scene because if Mike showed anything to the audience, Will would have also seen it because Will in that moment was the audience. So I understand why they didn't, and I just I don't like the fact that they had to come out in an article to explain it. I really wish there would have been like a separate scene, like after that coming out scene, where you just see like Mike have to take a moment and just like absorb. Like I would have appreciated that a lot more than having to read about it in an article. You understand? Like Will could have walked out of that room, or Mike could have walked out of that room and just been like, "Wow." And like we see it like actually, or maybe he doesn't even say anything. You just see it on his face, and he like takes a moment, and then he just like, goes out and joins the others. Like all we needed was like one moment. I also don't think. I just want to put this in here. I don't think that Elle and Mike are together. Like the fact that the world is ending like again and all of this stuff is happening and you almost die and she's almost died and like everything's happened and they haven't kissed once. They broke up in those 18 months. I'm certain of it. Like there's no way they're still together. And if they are still together and if they are in game, then what is the Duffers doing? Like I'm with other people when they say that I genuinely would ship those two characters together if they had any chemistry and they were well written. Because I'm over there shipping Jancy, right? Like, I'm not allergic to straight ships, okay? I'm not. I would ship it if it was well written. I would. So, it. I don't know what they're doing over there. So, if those two end up in game, I'm so, so sorry to literally every fan of that ship because I would have been mad. I would have been so mad. Like genuinely, that is insane behavior to write a ship like that. Actually, crazy. Um, but going back to the point that I was making, I genuinely think that Will just was trying to bring up the Tammy thing and the crush thing just to sort of minimize his own feelings because he's afraid to actually say them out loud. Like, yeah, he has a crush, whatever. Like, it, I also think, and let me, before you click away, let me go into the second part of that. Okay. The second part of that is he was trying to minimize it for Mike. Now, here's the thing I don't think Will believes that Mike is stupid. I think he, like, staring into his eyes essentially almost while admitting that he had a crush. I think he was trying to be as close to honest as he could have been. I don't know why he chose that moment, but I think he just figured if I'm coming out to 20 people, then I might as well, just leave it all on the table. This is the last chance I'm ever gonna get. If I don't say it now, I'm never gonna say it. Like I think he took that little bit of liquid courage, right? That they were talking about, and he just like threw it out all out there. Like I understand what that like feels like of like, okay, well now I've told you one thing, I have to tell you like 50 others. And that also is seen in the confession scene with Jancy, where they just kept snowballing their confessions until eventually it became an avalanche. See what I did there? But I really think that Will was trying to make it digestible for Mike because we haven't seen Mike actually like deal with so we're going into the hypotheticals here of if Mike actually likes Will, right? We don't have any confirmation. We know for a fact in the lore that Mike is Will's crush, right? We know that. We do not know if Will is Mike's crush. We do not know that. That is not canon in the lore. So I genuinely believe that if Mike was paying attention to what Will was saying and actually putting dots together and connections, that at that point he would have like started to absorb. And I think Will being like, oh, I there was this guy, he was the love of my life. I would have died for him. I've loved him since we were so young. I loved him for a very long time. You know, he's my life. He's my heart, my soul. Like all of that things. Like I think that would have been a bit too much. Even if he just said that, like that was the love of his life. Even if he said, "I've loved them for a very long time," I think, I think that would have scared Mike. I genuinely do. Like, I think Mike would have been like, oh no, like how much have I missed? Like, how blind have I been for so long? Because I think, like, if I'm gonna be completely honest, if I'm Michael, I'm probably thinking back to maybe, the season 4 time. I'm thinking maybe it's only been a year or two, not since we've literally met. Like, I'm thinking, oh, this has been like a short thing. Like, we've been friends for a long time, and then, you developed a crush on me, not basically the moment that, you know, on the swing set. Like, right? So I think is like if he said all of those things, if Will said all of those things to Mike or to the room, and Mike absorbed it as himself, I think Mike would have been overwhelmed because I think he would have been like, "Oh, this is so much deeper than I thought it was. Like this has been going on a lot longer than I thought it has." Like I think he does feel those same feelings for Will, but I think he would have just been overwhelmed by, "Oh, I haven't maybe felt them for that long," or, "Oh, you felt them for as long as I have," or whatever. I think he just would have been overwhelmed. And that's the thing about Michael's character is he gets overwhelmed. He's just a little guy, and difficult things can be overwhelming, especially when it comes to love and love to your best friend who is also a guy. There's a lot happening. And in the 80s, and with the household that Mike has grown up with, I'm pretty sure, he would have been overwhelmed. Because here's the thing, I know Mike and Will have had the same sort of issues with their fathers. Now I know I'm throwing this word out there for Ted, but I do think he might be homophobic. Okay. Now, do I know that for sure? No. Is it confirmed in the lore? No. To my knowledge, it's not. And I actually really like Ted. I I know that's crazy. Okay, because in canon I like him. In head canon, probably not, because he's you know literally homophobic. I just said that, but in canon, this dude shows up with a golf club to protect his wife and kid, and then we completely ignore him. We don't acknowledge his existence. Actually insane though. But I do think that Ted is probably homophobic, which that leads me to the point of this. Lonnie left. Lonnie's no longer in Will's life. Yes, he did damage, but he's gone now. Will can kind of slowly come to self acceptance. Mike hasn't had that opportunity. He hasn't had that breath. He hasn't had the chance, especially since a lot of their hangout time has been in his own basement. This dude hasn't really like been anywhere else long enough to like truly start to feel things. And like even when he took that trip to California, you can very clearly tell that that was the first time he actually allowed himself to be anybody than who he was presenting himself to be in, Hawkins. So I think genuinely, like, Mike's just not ready for, "I've been in love with you." So I think, well, diminishing it to just a crush is not only for his own sanity, but is also partially like for Michael, which I don't think when he said it, I think it was more for himself. And I think the writers chose to do it for Michael. Does that make sense? I don't know how to explain it otherwise. But like the writers chose to diminish it for Michael to be able to absorb it and wrote it for Will to say because he's trying to not still have those feelings because he's afraid the Vecna's going to use them against him. And then the whole Tammy thing, I think when I don't think again, I think it was written for Will to diminish his feelings, and I think it was also said for Mike to sort of be confused. I actually don't know. I really don't, but I think there was a possibility that like, you know, for Mike to hear that and be like, "Oh, okay, well, Will did have feelings for me, but he doesn't anymore." So that way it's not like, "Oh, he still has feelings for me." Right? It's a little bit softer because it's like, "Okay, well, if I have feelings for him, then I can go have a conversation with him and maybe he'll get his feelings back." Right? Whereas it's like at the other side of it, it's like, okay, well, if I don't have feelings for him and he doesn't have feelings for me anymore, then it doesn't matter, right? It's the safest option to just say, but I don't love him anymore, right? Because if he's just straight up says, I'm still in love with him, and Mike's like, oh, I don't feel the same, then now it's awkward. So I feel like the safest option for Mike to be like, yes, I have feelings for you, let's talk about it, or I don't have feelings for you, we're still on good terms because you're no longer in love with me, right? Even though Will definitely is still in love with him. So I understand why people are peeved, but I also think that there is a reason. And I think, again, in episode 8, it's going to be a sort of Mike's POV of everything. Like, I think it's just going to be Mike's POV. I think we're going to see a situation where Will gets hurt or something, and Mike has to lock in and be like, okay, I need to come to terms with myself in this moment. Basically, Vecna is going to out both of them. Hey, if they're going to have to get traumatized, let them be traumatized together. I do think they're both going to be forced to come out. Which somebody pointed out that Vecna is essentially like anxiety and depression. So it's like the embodiment of it. So it does make sense that anxiety and depression would like force two people to come out of the closet. But I think Mike would have just a hair more like. Well, no, actually, I think they would both have the same amount of like choice. Or like they don't really have a choice, but they also kind of have a choice. Like Will could have gotten outed on the battlefield, right? Like he didn't need to have that conversation in that moment. He kind of chose to, but he also knew that there was like a risk if he didn't, right? The same way, like if Mike is in the battlefield and he has to come out, then like he doesn't necessarily have to, but will die if he doesn't. So it's like there's stakes there, but he also has a choice. Like he could just very well let Will die. Would he ever do that? Absolutely not. But Vecna, well, actually, Vecna might know that. But who knows, right? Who knows? Something else I will point out is that there is also a possibility that Will is kind of annoyed with Mike right now because Mike Mike kept comparing, like, being, like, overly invested and, like, obsessed with Will's new abilities. And Will even said it himself, and I predicted that he was going to say it, where he was like, I'm not L, right? So, like, I think he's kind of, like, getting mixed signals from Michael. Like, before in Volume 1, he was like, oh, there's a chance. Like, Michael did something in those 18 months, and I think we're going to see it in Episode 8. Again, I'm Delulu, but like I'm hoping. I'm hoping we see in episode 8 whatever it was that happened in those 18 months that gave Will hope. But I think Will had the hope, and in volume two, he's starting to lose it because of like all of the things that Michael was saying, and now it just feels like, oh, he's kind of into me because he thinks I'm L. He thinks I'm cool because I have powers. Like he didn't like me before, but he likes me now that I have powers, right? So it kind of gives you the ick, and it's like, Michael, why are you so obsessed? Like, why are you so like, oh, he's the sorcerer, he's the sorcerer? Like, calm down. Like, get off the floor. It's like, it's just a little weird. It's just a little weird. And it did give me the ick. And I understand that Will loves Elle. Like, he does. He genuinely does. Like, that's his sister. But I've been literally, like, happened last week, compared to my sibling over and over and over again. And it actually infuriated me to no end. It's like, okay, but we are not the same person, right? They have their strengths. I have my strengths. They have their weaknesses. I have my weaknesses. But we are not the same person. Like, we could have the same strengths, but we are not the same person. So, like, shut up. Like, please just shut up. Like, I understand that, like, even if I looked up to that person, it would not change my opinion. You know, being compared to another person is never like, unless it's like a superstar or like somebody who, you know, the coolest person on earth. I don't think I'd want to be compared to anybody. But that's just maybe a me take. But I do think that there's a chance that Will is sort of frustrated with Mike right now, and that's also adding to sort of his feelings, especially with Vecna having gotten into his head. And like I said before, in the Max Z, he showed him a falsity, a memory that didn't actually happen. Right? The whole van scene. Mike looks over, Mike then doesn't look over. It's like, okay, but that's not reality. So I think with Vecna messing with his head and maybe his like frustrated feelings towards Mike, he's probably like also kind of over. Like he he just feels like Mike doesn't care. And I also think that like the reason why, now bear with me, right? Like I don't think necessarily that Vecna is sort of changing these memories, but like I also don't think that he's not. Because here's the thing, like I've been in a car before. If the mirror is clean, and I don't know how clean it would be, you can kind of see what's happening behind you in the right angle. So like he could have possibly seen Michael looking at him. But also it's Will's memory. He's not going to have seen Mike looking at him because he's not the camera. Right? So like he was looking in the complete opposite direction than Mike was. So like I understand why that scene would have been, you know, different, because Will would not have seen Mike looking at him. But I still don't think it like takes away from my point. I think Vecna is probably like just messing with his head, showing him like just doubtful things, not necessarily just like completely like rewriting things, but just like feeding him with doubt. Really, I think that's the main goal. Um, I don't really think that there's much else to talk about. Let me just scroll through my notes. I really do think it's just the trauma. I think Will is trying to downplay his emotions because he's traumatized. He blames himself. He doesn't think he's capable of love. He doesn't think he deserves love. He thinks that he's a monster. He thinks, and it's such a like a difference between volume one and volume two, especially with like how Will feels about himself. But you have to take into consideration this man's got Vecna twice, and that's why I think that there is a high likelihood he'll get Vecna again in volume three, because of course he would, right? Yeah, in episode four, episode six, I think it was. So I do think there is a possibility that he'll get Vecna again, and then Mike will have to confess and save him because I don't know. I don't know how Mike is gonna like get to the conclusion though. Like I genuinely don't know if the painting's gonna be brought up, but I don't understand how they can make a Funko Pop with Mike holding the painting because I'm pretty sure that's real. I'm pretty sure that's real. I don't know how they make such like a big deal about this painting for them to not bring it up again. So I think in episode 8 somehow Mike is going to like Mike at this point after episode 7 going into episode 8 understands and believes truly that Will had a crush or is in love with him, whatever, right? Like he is certain that Will was talking about him. So they're in the upside down now. They mentioned that they were gonna have to wait. Now I don't know if the waiting already took place. I don't know if the waiting's gonna happen on the upside down. I'm not quite sure about when the waiting takes place. Like I don't know if they were just like the waiting was them prepping for the battle. Like I don't know how much time we're gonna have between when they get there to when things conclude. And I also don't know what's happening with the military. But I kind of just wish that whole arc was not in this. Like, let that have ended at, like, the 4th episode. Like, genuinely let that have ended in the 4th episode. Especially, like, the overhead military. They didn't do anything. They just walked around and talked. Like, let the military be in the Upside Down or something. Like, I don't know. Or maybe the military that was in the Upside Down is now in the overworld, so they're not going to be an issue in this final episode. I don't know. I don't know. But it's frustrating to have to deal with, like, both of them and then, like, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, I genuinely don't know how they're gonna do the pacing, but I feel like it's gonna be Mike's episode. It has to be. Like we've gotten almost nothing from Michael this entire season. He has to lock it in. I don't know how he's gonna do it, but he has to lock it in. And I was also hoping for a fight scene because we were promised a fight scene. Between Mike and Will. And we didn't get it. So I don't know if we're gonna get a fight scene in this. Now, the craziest thing that could happen, but I feel like it would be way too much on Will. I think the craziest thing that could happen would be for Will to get Vecna, Mike to get him out of Vecna-ness, and then for Will to still be trying to stay behind. But I don't think that that would happen at that point. Like, I'm trying to figure out how they would, like, fit in a fight. Like, I think the fight, if there is going to be a fight, would have to be Will trying to stay. Or Will having whatever ulterior motive that he has. I think that's the correct word. Like, he's very clearly got a plan. He's very clearly got a motive. What that is, I don't know. But whatever it is, I feel like there might be a fight about it. Or the fight could be about the painting, but that would just be. I don't know. And I remember Noah talking about how like there was something that was like a loose end that wasn't tied up. And I feel like maybe that might be the painting. But I think he was talking about the epilogue. So like that would be so weird to save it for that moment. And not like let it be a bigger thing. Like I just don't understand what they were doing with like Mike's character when Will was unconscious. Like we sort of just got Mike hovering. So unless he was thinking during those times, or maybe he was like stressed out, like I just don't understand what he was doing. And I feel like there's not enough time because there's 2 hours of episode and 40 minutes is supposed to be the epilogue. So we got about over like about an hour and a half, right? Give or take. So what are we supposed to be doing? You know, I'm confused and I'm concerned. But I feel like I don't know what the last episode that was like closest to the time, like how much they accomplished. But I feel like they can accomplish quite a bit in that time. But there's so many characters. And I want to make another video talking about like what at what point I would have killed like certain characters to like better advance the plot and stuff. Because that's one of the biggest things that I have an issue with, especially with Stranger Things, is that they don't kill characters. Okay, I grew up on Supernatural. I grew up on Marvel. I grew up on baby name it. Literally every TV show under the sun does this. Like characters have to die. Heck, NCIS, spoilers. First season, I think it is. Either first or second season, they literally kill one of the main characters, and it's like, what? Wait, I'm pretty sure it's the first season. And it's like, dude, that's crazy. I was emotionally attached. I was not ready to lose somebody. So stuff like that happens, and it's like, okay, you gotta lock it in. Like, I understand you love the cast and whatever, but like, actually, crazy that you have not killed barely anybody of importance. I know in the moment everybody was mad about Alexi, but I don't think anybody cares about him now. And I know people are still mad about Eddie. So I don't know, but point is, I think episode 8 really has to be Michael's like episode if there's any chance of salvaging Byler. Um I think I understand sort of what was happening in this volume where Will is just filled with doubt and Mike is slowly starting to come to terms with himself. But I really don't like the framing of it though, because I feel like Michael was thinking in those moments when he saw Will unconscious and stuff. But I really don't like the aspect of Michael suddenly being okay with accepting his feelings for Will or starting to have feelings for Will or whatever it is with the fact that he just got powers. But maybe he finally just like started to see Will in a new light instead of like he's just got a thing for powers. But I think maybe he feels I think really what they were trying to frame it as is Mike sort of is just enamored by the fact that Will just saved his life. I think that might I think that might have been the actual like trying to frame it, but failing at doing it properly. I don't know, but I think I think Michael was really like starting to like absorb and like I don't know, his feelings, I guess, in those moments when he was quiet and not really saying much because he just kept looking at Will. I don't know. I do not know, but that is essentially my sort of theory as to what was happening. And I think all of it, like, if they're planning on addressing it in the eighth episode, if they do it properly, they can actually salvage volume two. Like, they could actually salvage it because I think all of this stuff is intentional. I'm still gonna give the benefit of the doubt to the Duffers and to everybody else. I'm going to genuinely just hold on to the hope that we're reacting too soon and that what they're intending to happen, just hasn't happened yet. And I think this is also probably why the Duffers again um made the statement of this. I think this is really why the Duffers made this statement was because they were like, okay, hold on. Everybody's getting mad at us. We don't want them mad at us. Uh, we're not queer baiting. We actually want to do this storyline. Everybody's upset because they feel like it's not going to happen. So I feel like the Duffers are trying to like sort of damage control, and they're like, okay, calm down, guys. Just give us another like 6 days or whatever. Let us release the last episode, and then you can be upset. So I really think that genuinely, like, either this is a massive queer bait stating this, or it's literally just trying to calm people down and be like, okay, you're reacting too quickly. Just let us cook. So I'm going to let them cook, and I'm going to hold out hope, and I'm going to try to believe. But yeah, I genuinely think that there is a chance. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Because this is ultimately going to either make or break the show. However they tackle episode 8, make or break. Because if they if they make Mike and 11 get back together, or like have a moment together after not having them interact barely the entirety of this season, that's going to break the show. If they don't make these two get together, it's going to break the show. If they put Will through all this torture only to kill him, it's going to break the show. Um, do I think 11 is going to sacrifice herself? No. I think Will and 11 are going to like last second be like, no. I think Mike's probably going to try to convince them both. Or 11's just going to like kind of, I don't know. If I was 11, I'd push Will through the portal. I'd be like, no. Like, come on. One of us has to have a happy ending. If it's not going to be me, it's going to be you. Get your butt through there. So, I don't know. And they've always been sort of like parallels to each other. So, one of them, I feel like, is going to have to stay. One of them is going to have to go. That's just what I genuinely believe. Which one it will be, who knows? But if they're both planning on doing it, then there's going to be a scene. And I feel like Mike is going to be at the middle of that scene because of the fact that he's been, since Will is his best friend and Ella is his girlfriend, I feel like Mike's going to be in the middle of that scene and something's going to happen. Who knows what, but something's going to happen. So, anyways, I've yapped for long enough. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comments. If you want to clip any of what I was saying and put it onto TikTok, Twitter, whatever, I don't care. Just want to sort of shove down as much Byler doubt as possible because I genuinely think with everything that I've said, and again, I hope you watch this on 2x speed because I really yapped a lot. But I genuinely think that Byler is not dead. I think everything that I talked about has a high likelihood of happening, especially with what the Duffers just confirmed. So maybe they're queer rating us. I've been through it before. It doesn't get easier. You just gotta like suck it up, deal with it, move on. Like either you're still gonna love the show or you're not. It's just what it is at the end of the day. So it's a TV show. We live, we learn, we love, we suffer. I've been through it so many times, but it is what it is. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Love you guys. Let's have fun. Be safe, trying to die. And I hope that New Year's Eve we get what we've always wanted. 9 years. I've been waiting to the very last episode. That's the part that peeves me the most. Is that they really are waiting to the very last second to do this. Anyways, love you. Bye.